Hey, and welcome to Raising Grades, a podcast for us to hear from successful and sometimes famous people and their parents on how they were raised in hopes that we who are raising children now will know what it takes to potentially raise a grade. If you are a baseball family, you are really going to love this episode because we have Jocelyn here who helped raise Jaron Elkins, who was drafted to the LA Dodgers. And we are so excited to have you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So walk us through a little bit of like the biggest questions that I get when it comes to athletes, and hearing from the parents is what age did they start? And was it a progression of him getting better and realizing that he loves this? Or did you try a bunch of different sports and choose this one kind of later in his life? Walk us through that.
He had started like as a young child, like T-ball. He has an older brother as well, and so he kind of followed him along. Think through all that. He did not come into my life until later, but I know his history is he has played baseball every year, probably since he's been like 4. In other sports, that might have come and gone, but baseball has definitely just been, you know, every season. So he did do football when he was younger as well, and then dropped that for a while. And then it was pretty solely baseball for a long time. Once he started kind of um, getting into like the middle school years, he did pick back up with football, and he also picked up wrestling just to kind of gap the winter and spring sports. So he's like, making sure he's still working out. But he did end up deciding to drop wrestling to kind of focus more on baseball his junior and senior year. So he continued football all through senior year. But he did decide on dropping wrestling, even though he loved it and he was good at it. He did more baseball during that moment then too.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many hours in the day, and to
Yeah.
try to practice for multiple sports and go to all the practices and all the games. I know for like us, we have 3 soccer games just on Saturday, and it's a lot
Well,
of
yeah.
like moving back and forth. And so, especially when you're in multiple sports, I bet you have to have like a family sit down of calendars and say, where are we on this day and what is happening on this weekend? Now, with that, the road to success a lot of times is paved with parental sacrifice. I'm sure that there were a lot of sacrifices that you all had to do to be able to like pour into this area of his life. And I hate to even use the word sacrifice because it kind of maybe has a little bit of a negative feeling towards it. But as a family, were there times that you had to move for his baseball, or did you have to pick up like extra jobs because sports are not cheap? Did you have to give up vacations? Like, talk to us a little bit about the sacrifices as a family that you had.
Yeah. So I'll actually start by saying, we sacrificed a lot, but we had so much help. So I think that we had to dig deep into we don't have family around. Helping others and them helping us get our kids to where they needed to be was constant. But yes, at one point we did. My husband, Jaron's dad, was stationed up at Fort Campbell, and we were living in Clarksville, but I was working in Nashville. So I would go to work in Nashville, drive back to Clarksville, pick Jaron up to drive him back to Nashville for his travel ball practices. And we did that for a few months, a little less than a year. And then we ended up moving into the Nashville area because that's where we needed to be for him to be able to keep, progressing and being a part of the team he wanted to be a part of. So we definitely, sacrificed. And that, I mean, driving weekends, you mentioned vacations, we would always just try to make like mini vacations out of any of the travel ball trips or anything like that. And there were numerous times that Jaron, if we did like a family trip, say like a week long, Jaron would come for the first like 2 or 3 days, and then he'd hop on a plane out to wherever he needed to go.
Wow.
So again, we had to really lean into other families and the coaches to kind of help, while he was a little bit younger, keep eyes on him and, keep him doing what he needed to do when he didn't have his parents there. So those are some of the things that, I think I remember at the most. But once he turned 16, 17, and he was able to drive to some of the shorter tournaments and things like that, that was helpful. But it also then you had the parent guilt that you couldn't be there, and and there were other people there for you, but you weren't able to be there.
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that you touched on the parent guilt because no matter what we're doing, we're going to be, or at least us moms, we're going to feel guilty about something. So if it's spending, where like vacation can be really awesome for the family and family bonding, then you have that guilt of like, oh, I'm missing this game or we're missing practices, or if you are completely in the travel season just where it's just travel ball, then you kind of feel guilty that you're not pouring into another area of your life. So I'm glad that you touched on that because I think that's something that everybody feels, but we don't really talk about it a lot. But it's a completely normal thing. And, I feel like if we look at it as like this is a season and
Mhm.
this is just what we're doing as a family in this season, then we can give ourselves a little bit of grace on that guilt.
Like, especially you mentioned, like, we have 2 other kids at home too. So, on top of working full time and everything like that, we have other kids we have to, nurture and be around, and be there for them too. So just that balance, of parenting more than one child that has, more needs too.
Of course. So, talk to me about the schedules that you guys had then. If you have the other kids involved in activities and just trying to juggle all of that.
So we got, I would say mostly our kids are a little younger. So Jaron just turned 19, and his little brothers are about to be 4 and 5. So they just kind of went everywhere with us. If it was Friday night football, they were in the stroller or playing around on the field. They went to most all of his baseball games. I mean, I remember traveling, holding the little one in the carrier while the other one's running around and like trying to make sure I could see if Jaron's up to bat, just to
Right.
be there, even if I couldn't be fully present, if his dad couldn't be there, I was there. So you just have to balance what you can do in the moment.
You just get in there and do it and figure it out
Yes,
along the
yes,
way, I
yes.
think.
And I think we had open communication too about, um, we are family. Everybody matters. Yes, this is important for you and we want that for you, but we all are trying our best to make sure that we're all happy and everything, in the family is working. Not just focusing on Jaron or focusing on the littles or anything like that, but as a family unit, we're able to be happy and be productive.
I love that so much. Having those conversations, I think really sets the stage of what the expectation is, and so that nobody in the family feels that they're not getting enough attention or that their interest in things, don't matter. So that you're able to say, no, we all matter and we are a family unit. I love that so much. So, what about burnout? I get a lot of questions from moms saying, how do you overcome when the child maybe is experiencing a little bit of burnout? And how do we decipher if it truly is that we need to take a break? Or if they're just going through a short little season of like maybe they're just overworked and overtired, but they actually want to continue. How do you decipher that?
So, that I feel like that's a little hard for me to answer because Jaron never really showed that. His motivation to be the best has been there forever. He is determined, he is driven, and he is so focused. And I think that he played high school baseball, then he played travel ball, and him being able to do both of those, working with different coaches, with different players, working out at different gyms, things like that, I think kind of probably helped the kind of decrease the idea of burnout, I guess. I think other sports, I definitely saw that in him, but it was more frustration. Because say, giving wrestling an example, it was, one team a couple of coaches. There was no like variation. Whereas in baseball, I feel like he's been able to train in different facilities with different coaches and things like that. I think that's helped him a lot.
So with that, all the opportunities that there are from camps to special trainings to extra time on the field, was he at every single possible thing that he could be at? I know like there's just so much and it gets expensive. And
Mhm.
so a lot of families maybe don't have that opportunity. And I'm just curious if he really was at everything or if you just did as much as you could.
Both, I would say. There my husband luckily is very good with budgeting and he budgeted every year out. So there was always money for travel ball the next year. Um, we were frugal as much as we could be on like our traveling, like how we're getting there, where we're staying and things like that. But he always made sure, the budget was there for what needed to be done for travel ball. There were times for sure that if there was like he wanted to take extra hitting lessons or, some kind of extra lesson. Part of that was like, okay, that's going to be your Christmas money or that's going to be your birthday money. It just, you can't do it all. Or, once he got older, he was able to work. So he would work some camps or mow lawns or, things like that. We started paying him from our lawn. Just because he was so busy, he really couldn't keep a true part-time job, because of his schedule, but he definitely found ways to make money to help get the things that he needed as well.
I love that so much because I feel like if they are also putting in money from their own pockets to something, they are going to be even more dedicated
For
to that.
sure.
Okay, so let's talk about playing ball in the house. Was he allowed to play ball in the house? And if he was allowed, or maybe he snuck it, was there ever a time that like it got really frustrating? Maybe he broke something, and how did y'all handle that?
So they still do. I'm like looking in my living room area right now and I'm like, they use this whole area to play baseball. But no, I remember when we moved out of our first apartment that we all had lived in together and we were renting. And so I had to go through and make sure like everything was cleaned out and this and that. And I noticed that one of the lights in the light bulb was missing. I was like, "That's odd, I never noticed that." He's like, "Yeah, I hit it with a baseball bat by accident." He's like, "I cleaned it up though." I'm like, "You should have told." And then, like, every now and then I feel like we'll see, like, a hole in the garage door or, he never confesses right away, but he'll once you say something, he definitely brings it up. So nothing super drastic that I've seen, but he's good at figuring out how to hide it before we find out about it.
I just feel like it's inevitable. If you have an athlete, things are just going to get broken in your
Yeah.
house. So I have a guitar in my office that is signed by all of the Nashville Predators, and it's hanging. And there was one day where my son was kicking because his sport is soccer. And so he was kicking around a soccer ball, which we do allow in the house because of just trying to better his feet skills and stuff, but he kicked it too hard and he knocked it into that guitar, and the look on his face immediately, like, all the color left his face, and he looked at me, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I get too angry about situations where I'm like, "I told you not to kick that in this area, take it over to that
Right.
area," and I looked at him and I saw, like, him bracing for impact, and I had to really catch myself in that moment, and I said to him, I said, "Yes, it's frustrating that that happened because you could have known your space a little bit better, you could have moved over, but I don't love that guitar more than I love you."
Sure.
And immediately, like, the relief on his face, and he came over and hugged me, and, like, it was, like, a really precious moment, and I try I don't always do it, but I try to, like, be that way when I know it's, like, a true mistake versus,
Mhm.
something that maybe was a not a mistake.
So Jaron, I mean, he's 6 foot 200 pounds. He'll have some buddies over doing it sometimes. Like they play the little baseball game that him and his 4 and 5-year-old play. And honestly, like on nights like that, when you see that, it's just so cool to see. Like they want to be in your house and they want to play and they could be doing so many other things, but they're here and they're with you and like that's where they want to be. And that's like a really, really cool feeling.
Yeah.
You feel like you're doing something right, you know? So if a ball gets hit and something gets broke, again, not important. Like
Right.
this moment right here where we get to all kind of be together and everybody's enjoying it and laughing and playing, like that's way more important than a broken light bulb.
I love that so much because it's so right. You have them there in your presence. There's so many other things that they could be doing that would not be the best decisions and choices, but yet
Sure.
it's all like choosing your battles. So, with his friends coming over and being at your house, that leads into the question of how did you keep good influences in his life? Because raising a teenager, there's a whole world of bad influences that are coming after our kids. And so, was he just naturally so busy with baseball and wrestling and football that you didn't have to worry about that?
And this, the personal side of it is I am his step parent. And he did not come into my life until he was about 11 and then moved in with us full time when he was 12. And so my husband and I, who didn't know his father, he came to us full time in the prime of that, moment in a boy's life where things are changing, influences are there. There was a lot going on personally for him that we had to have stability. And so the short answer to the long situation is he had the opportunity to either go to a public school or a private school, and he was a public school kid forever. And the one private school that we looked at was a Christian school. And our family is Christian, but there has never been a every Sunday at this time. But he chose good pasture, and so he just excelled there. There were so many wonderful people, who loved him, loved us, wanted to teach him everything about God and keep him to be the godly boy, now man, that he could be. And before I jumped on here, I was actually looking. He, a couple of years ago, I don't remember if he asked this or not, but he had painted one of his bedroom walls with chalkboard paint. Not very professional, but, and he has quotes all over it. And I was going to read one of the quotes, and it says, I asked for strength, and God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for courage, and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for favors, and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted. I received everything I needed.
I love that.
And there are a bunch of other ones too. And it's all motivational. Almost all of them, are uplifting to himself. And so, yep, once again, if you're going to paint your wall black and write motivational quotes, go for it, kid, but he really took off. I think he saw the love and connections that he was able to make with people through the gasher. And he, even when he left for his initial training, started a Bible study down in Phoenix. Because he doesn't know anybody. He's at the time he was 18 and just found some other like-minded, Christian guys that he was able to do that with. And he did that on his own, and that to see the trajectory of where we were at 11, 12 to now, I do think for sure God had, both hands in it.
Oh man, like all of that, I'm fighting back tears because I love that so, so much. Um, and it sounds like a lot of prayer, a lot of thought, a lot of the right moves were made to get the man that he is now, which like starting a Bible study when you're brand new into an area that takes so much courage. And I just love that so much. That the quotes on the wall, that's he got that, I'm sure, from all of the influences that you all chose to place him around, really feeding into his mental health, his spiritual health,
Yes.
not just his physical health, which is such a huge part of becoming successful. So I think like kudos to you all for doing that. And I thank you for sharing that quote.
So I would say, again, going back to, we just really got lucky with the influence around him, the families, the coaches, the teachers, and having, I mean, going to a Christian school, having devotional, if he wouldn't have had that, I'm not sure if he would be where he is now, to be honest. There's a lot of directions he could have gone. I think the timing of everything was so perfect. I could name handfuls of names of people who have influenced his life. So it's been a village for sure.
Yes, that's what I was just gonna say. It takes a village. So
It does.
so with coaches, um, were there certain characteristics that you all saw more in a coach that the players listened to, responded to? Some players respond to like hard love, some players respond to maybe more explanation. How did that go with your son and understanding like this coach is a perfect for fit for him, or maybe this coach, maybe this team is not exactly what he needs?
So I think with that, I think it was more, you hear like what Jaron has to say, right? Jaron's the one right in front, knowing like what's going on. But, when he was, say, 15, 16, and he thought he should be, starting or in this position, because he sees himself so highly, but the coach is
Right.
like, but just, you're just not there yet. He's going to come back and tell us a little something different.
Mm.
I think as he grew older, um, educated himself more. He's a player, but he's not necessarily a coach. Could he coach? Probably, but those are two different positions. So I think once he really started doing more than just playing and like studying the game more and understanding actually, and not just being the player, I think that's helped with him understanding different coaching types. But I think he did a really good job of proving himself. He was definitely always like at every single practice, probably the first one at every single practice, and, you know, working his butt off every time. And so maybe if he, in that moment or in that season wasn't number one, his energy and his output put him on the radar. So he was able to even maybe before obviously, senior year and getting drafted, he was still on the radar because he had such good energy and such good like motivation and determination. So he kind of put himself in a good position by, just showing up and being there.
That is something that a lot of parents need to hear so that they can reiterate to their kids, if you lose a game, you still need to keep your head up high. You need to hold your head up high. You need to have a good attitude, because I see that all the time in athletes where these these kids, teenagers, even they'll get so down, and it just becomes a ripple effect.
You got to learn from your mistake. And if it wasn't a mistake, just from a weakness in the moment, and then make that weakness your strength.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you all navigate sports versus dating versus schoolwork?
And because of our family dynamic, we are a blended family, there was some leniency, right? Because he wasn't always with us. Like he may take a weekend with his mom, or, go visit his grandparents for a week or whatever, right? Like we weren't always eyes on. However, because we were the ones supporting payments for baseball, and practices and, all that, there was, I felt like, the standard, right? And the standard for us usually were A's and B's. And if it's a C, why, right? Is it just something that you're not good at? Are you not turning your homework in? But we monitored grades. That was part of, I feel like, if you're keeping up with your grades and you're not getting in trouble and you can maintain sports and a girlfriend, go for it. you're not making money to pay for your dates with these girls, but I would say that wasn't really like a big thing, that hindered him at all. Again, he would, if he went to the movies at 8 o'clock at night, he was still up at 5 in the morning for, 6 a.m. workouts.
Very structured.
So yes, yeah. So there wasn't really, that never really impacted, as far as we know.
Sure, sure. So with his schoolwork, he was drafted right out of high school, which is amazing. How did that decision go in your house? Because he had plans on going to a university. So now you have all of a sudden this amazing opportunity. Was there any like discussion of is this the right time? Should he go into baseball now or should he get his degree first? Or was it just like a no-brainer? Yes, this is it.
No, there was definitely talk because I mean, it came out of nowhere. January, last year, he was going to Wright State. Like we'd already gone, we visited. He knew he was going to live with. We were about to put our name down on an apartment for him. And then all of this started rolling out, and it was, we don't know anything. There are like you have scouts out there. There's agents asking questions, and I mean, dumbfounded, right?
Yes.
So he still, he wanted to, I think the biggest thing for Jaron is he wants to play. So, he thought, okay, if I do get drafted, I'm going to play because they're going to practice me and they're going to put me out there. They want to build me up. I go to Wright State, I might not play, right? The older, the better, the whoever might be playing more. So playing for him was a big decision maker. Like, where do I want to go? Some other thoughts obviously were financially, like what are they going to offer? Is this a smart decision, or are we just doing it for the fun of it? I hate to say that. Like, there's no other way for me to say it, I guess, right now. But but it's so cool to get drafted, obviously.
Right.
But if it's not going to be financially sound for the rest of your life, is that a big decision? I will say there, part of his deal, there is education money.
Oh, yeah.
That is separate from his bonus money. So
Yeah.
he can take classes and get his degree with that money. So that was part of the deal, which was great. So yeah, there was a lot of thought that went into it. But it came quick. It was a few months of, so what are we going to do? And then if we don't get drafted until this round, like, what do you say? And you don't have, there's no lead, like there's nobody there to like hold your hand and tell you like what the best route is. So, I think we probably wrote out all the scenarios we could think about, and again, just let him, I mean, this is your life. Like, what do you think is going to make you happy? And when it's all said and done, I think he made the right decision because he lives baseball. And so for him, again, just to go to college and maybe play a little bit, whereas now, like the second he touches down, he's going to be baseball all day. That's where he wants to be right now in his life. And if he wants to get an education later, he can do that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think it's a great opportunity and to have that education piece be a part of his package, that's amazing. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that existed in the professional
Yes.
world. So, that's really cool. So my final question to you is looking back because you're now on this side of raising him. So looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently? Would you have maybe pushed harder in one area or maybe not pushed as hard in another area because now you know it worked out?
Uh, that's in my head, and it's such a mom joke. I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have taught him how to like cook better and clean better. And I don't know. He got down there and he's just like Uber Eats it, like ordering all the time. And think it's just like any parent, like even when we were about to send him to college, you wonder what you missed. What didn't I teach them? What didn't I do to prepare them? I don't think we could have been any harder on him. Honestly, he like I said before, I think if he kept his grades up and he was doing well and there wasn't issues, he was kind of allowed to, you know, go out and be with his friends or do whatever. within limits. But I think it's just more like any kid going away that you just wonder, like, what did I miss that I could have done to prepare them better? I will say, I think as much as we set him up financially position, us moving into the Nashville area so he could be closer to his travel team and to be at good pasture, he did 99% of the work. Um, there's no doubt about it. Even this past week, he shipped his truck out Monday, and so he didn't have a vehicle, and he was like, I got to do my workout, and then I have to go hit. Like, how am I gonna? You know what I mean? Like, there was no downtime. He was like, I still need to do these things till the day I leave. There's nobody telling him that's what he has to do. That's him saying, this is what I have to do to make that next leap. Um, he could have just slept in and he didn't. So uh,
Yeah.
he's the one that does the work. He deserves all of what, he's been able to achieve so far.
Was he always like that, very self-motivated, or did that come a little bit later in life?
I would say later. Again, probably more like the 16-ish time frame, 16, 17. Probably a little after puberty, right? Like he got taller, he started getting bigger, and I think he had more confidence in himself. Whereas, when you're a little bit younger and you're just trying to figure out who you are, who your friends are, you know what I mean? I think that self-motivation was a little bit more when he was a little bit more self-sufficient. And he knew this is the only way I'm going to make it happen. Mom and dad can't play baseball for me. So if this is what I want, this is what I have to do to achieve that.
Well, yeah, no, we can't do it for them. So I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time. And
Yeah.
I love everything that you said. I am so proud of your family. It sounds like
Thank
you
you.
did so many right things. And I know sometimes as moms, we always question, like, oh, was that the right way? On the outside looking in, it sounds like you really set him up for success because he probably couldn't have done all the things without you guys guiding him in some way. So I know this is going to help a lot of people, especially a lot of baseball moms.
Mm,
So I really appreciate your time. Thank
yes.
you.